I just got back from Italy, but Italy hasn't left me. I want to tell you about a dish that I made last week for a group of about 22 people when we needed dinner and I had to cook with whatever I had in this little apartment that I was in this little bitty town called Scheggino in Umbria, the heart of Italy. It was late at night. We didn't have, the restaurants were closed. We needed food. So I went down to the store and I was able to get some eggplant. I got some Umbrian lentils. I got some walnuts. And I made this meaty filling that I rolled up in eggplant, topped it with a delicious tomato sauce, a beautiful eggplant rollatini that came together in minutes. Now, if you're one of those people that wants to have something that's a little meaty, but you want it to be whole foods based, this is the perfect filling. It's made out of lentils and ground walnuts with some mushrooms and onions and sun-dried tomatoes, and it is delicious. People absolutely loved it. So I want to make it for you today because some of those people have already asked me for the recipe, and since I just sort of winged it, I don't have the recipe, so I had to make it again to sort of figure out, okay, what exactly did I do and can I recreate it? So this is the dish. We're going to make it together. We're going to figure out how to make it together, and then we're going to taste it, and I'm going to be able to tell you whether or not it tastes like what I served up last week. Okay, I'm going to get started with the eggplants. We're going to take these globe eggplants and we're going to slice them about 1/3 of an inch, 1/2 an inch thick or so on the bias like this. And then really to render them as succulent and delicious as possible, we're going to salt them and drain them and then saute them. So let's get these all sliced up. Okay, I'm going to put them into a colander. I'm going to just liberally salt all the sides, and we're going to set this aside for about 20 minutes. And they're going to start to weep and release some of the water, any bitterness that you might find in here. Now, if you use Japanese eggplant, I found that I do not need to salt them. They're tenderer and they just seem to be lower in water. However, they're not quite big enough for rollatini, so unless you want to do mini rollatinis, you can do that as well. So I'm going to stick with the globe eggplant. But Italian and Japanese eggplants are very, very similar in the sense that, they're just not as, I just don't find them to have that sort of bitter quality that globe eggplants do. Okay, so take a look at here. They're standing up so they can release their brown liquid, and we're just going to stick it in the sink for about 20 minutes while we make the filling. Okay, earlier I mentioned lentils, and they are the star of the show. I've got some lentils. These are Umbrian lenticchie. They're tiny, tiny, tiny little brown lentils, but you can use any lentil that you can find, except for pink. They're a little too mushy, but any brown lentil. You can use beluga. You can use French green lentils, any lentil you find. I have about 8 ounces of lentils already cooked up. I cooked them yesterday with a little bit of broth. You can cook them in water. Just have them ready to go. Okay, now we're going to dice some onions. Oh, this is one of those tearjerker onions. I don't know what it is. You get those onions that don't do anything, and then you get the onions that just make you want to cry. Now, the trick to not crying when you chop an onion is to keep your onions in the refrigerator. That minimizes whatever the chemical is that brings tears to your eyes. Okay, they're stinging. My eyes are stinging. Got a little olive oil in my pan. I'm going to saute the onions now. Season with a little salt. All right, we'll cook that until they're tender. Meanwhile, I have about 8 ounces of walnuts that I'm going to add to my blender, and we're just going to pulse them and kind of grind them up. They're going to be part of that meaty sensation that we're going to create with the lentils and the walnuts. I don't like to wash dishes, so hey, why not stir with the back of the spoon there? Look at that. All right, so I don't want them releasing their oils too much. I just want them slightly pulverized, a few chunks, doesn't hurt. While the onions are cooking, I'm gonna chop up some sun-dried tomatoes. And I actually brought these back with me from Italy, even though you can tell they're kind of long. They're from San Marzano tomatoes, but you can use any sun-dried tomato, whatever you like. These are so tender, I don't need to soak them, but if you have really tough sun-dried tomatoes, you may want to soak them to make them a little bit tenderer before you try to chop them. And biting into a little chunk of sun-dried tomato in this mixture is just oh so wonderful. Now I'm gonna throw these into the lentils. Let's add some garlic as well. Oh, and this is one of those bulbs of garlic where you only have the good size cloves on the exterior, and then everything else is just like these tiny, tiny, tiny little cloves that are really annoying to have to open and peel. So that's why my garlic rock is so handy dandy. All right, we're gonna add some rosemary. So when I made this dish last week in Italy, I used fresh mushrooms, but I realized that I'd forgotten to buy them, but I had dried porcini, so that's what we're gonna use. So I soaked some of these porcinis. Feel free to use dried porcinis or fresh crimini or white button mushrooms. I'm gonna chop these up as well. You want a little bit of that umami that comes from the mushrooms. So be sure to add mushrooms, doesn't matter what kind. I'm gonna add these to the onions. Now, because these are dried mushrooms, you really don't need to cook them. They're gonna get cooked when they're baked, but assuming that you are using fresh mushrooms instead of dried, you'd wanna cook them with the onions. Okay, let me see if my onions are done. I think so. All right, I'm gonna get them into the lentils. And finally, I'm just gonna toast the walnuts to deliver a little bit of that nutty flavor. But be careful that you don't burn them. I gotta prepare my sauce, and I have some strained tomatoes here. You can use a can of tomatoes, San Marzano if possible. This is what I happen to have in the cupboard. And we're just gonna make a really simple, quick tomato sauce. If you wanna just buy a jar of already made marinara or tomato sauce, that's fine too. But I just find it easy to do. So I'm gonna add a little olive oil to this, a little salt. I'm gonna add some garlic. Give that a stir. And we'll just let that cook for about 10 minutes. Back to the walnuts, and they are beginning to look a little brown, a little toasty. I can smell them, and that's what you want. You don't want to cook them much beyond this point because then they'll start to burn and then you get that bitterness. So just keep stirring like that until you get this beautiful brown color. You see that? It's gotten deeper in color. Oh my gosh, I can smell them. They smell so good. And into the bowl they go. Okay, now we're gonna mix up our lentil walnut meat. And then we're gonna taste it and see if it's got enough salt. Oh my gosh, but I can smell it. It looks so good. Okay, I gotta taste my filling. Wow. So satisfying. That is so meaty and so delicious. Okay, I think my eggplant is ready. You can tell when you can kind of squeeze it and it doesn't fall apart or break. So I like to rinse these so they're not overly salty. They've already absorbed salt, so they're gonna be plenty flavorful without having to add any additional seasoning to it. But I just like to rinse the excess salt off and then squeeze it. Some people will just take a knife and just kind of scrape off the salty water, but I really just like to rinse it, and then I just like to give it a little squeeze like that. Up. There we go. Squeezing out a little bit more water. Ooh. Okay, this guy is always in the way right here at the stove when I'm trying to cook. All right, I'm using the same pan. I got to do the karate stance here in order to be able to fry these up. Oh, that's my oven too. I'm going to turn that on. Got my olive oil in there, and we're going to cook these up until they're beautifully browned on both sides. Okay, I'm adding some freshly picked basil to my tomato sauce here. Give that a stir. I like to give these a peek, but I always do it before they're ready. When the eggplant is ready, after it's been salted and drained and squeezed, there's a slight translucent appearance. It doesn't look like fresh eggplant. It looks like it's been slightly steamed or something, and that's what you're going for because it cooks up beautifully and it has this wonderful, soft, succulent texture. Okay, I'm gonna start by just putting a little bit of tomato sauce on the bottom of my dish. This will flavor the eggplant from the bottom as well as preventing it from sticking. Okay, take my eggplant slice. I'm gonna fill it with this lentil, mushroom, and walnut meat. It's absolutely lovely. Roll it up and stick it right in my dish. It's a little hot to handle, but you know what happens if you're a chef, you get ironclad fingers. All right, I'm gonna cover these babies with some sauce. We're gonna put them in the oven until it's piping hot, and then we are going to devour them. Maybe just 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can eat. Okay, I can't wait for the eggplant to be out of the oven, but I wanna share this with you. This was a birthday gift. I turned 66 last week, and I was in Italy, as you know, and everyone on the vegan tour gave this to me for my birthday, this little thing. What do you think it is? So it's really, really cool. There's an O here for olio, which means oil, and A for aceite, which means vinegar. So it's designed so that when you pour one, the other doesn't spill. So I'm gonna pour the oil right here. As you can see, the vinegar doesn't come out. I put the lid back on, or not, and then I pour this side, and voila, I have vinegar. So isn't that cool? This I just love Italian ceramics, and this is the perfect gift for me. Okay, it's been about 15-20 minutes in my oven. I'm gonna pull it out now. You can make this ahead of time and just keep it warm and serve it whenever you want. It's bubbling, that's what you're looking for. Just look at that deliciousness. If you have a little bit of vegan cheese that you want to put on top, you can do that too. Okay, they're out of the oven and I cannot wait to take a bite. Let me take one out of here. Ooh, that looks so good. All right, might be too hot to try, but let me give it a try. Oh, look at the inside there. It is so meaty looking. The eggplant looks so tender and succulent. Does it taste like what I served everyone last week? So delicious, so meaty, so rich from the mushrooms and the walnuts. And the Umbrian lentils are just phenomenal. They are my favorite lentil. This dish would be a hit at any dinner party. Well, thank you for watching today's episode of The Vegan Good Life with Miyoko. I'll see you again soon, and be sure to subscribe. Look at this. You got curls.
Yeah, I did my hair.
I got curls.
Just for
Look
the
at
shoot.
Curls.
So, moment of truth. 5 hours later. It's gonna be my one meal for the day. My one bite of food for the day. Yummy. It's got like a rustic taste to it. Flavorful. Very lovely. You should make this.
That sounded so sincere.